even when the wind was extremely brutal, what we thought, you you seem to hold it together. What is it that you saw out there that nobody else did?
What I look at in conditions for shooting, and it's in all probability it's because I'm a wind coach for a lot of teams, is as many of the conditions as I can keep an eye on, not just one condition. In F class, I've been trying to use two scopes, the rifle scope, which has to be aimed on the target, but it's got the mirage closest to the target. And then I use another spotting scope, which is about whatever the distance is, it's about focused halfway back. And that gives me a mirage. So I'm looking at two mirages, and every flag out in front of me, more or less, the windward side more so than the history side for the flags, but you still got to keep an eye on them. If the wind would come from the other side, those history flags would show it to you first.
Right. Now, when you're doing that, are you looking to average the conditions, or are you looking for them to agree?
That depends on the range you're on, and it's a rare range that everything agrees enough times that you can get all the shots off. Most ranges will have some sort of problem that flags just won't agree, and you just got to weigh it and go with what you think. I think every shot I make, I'm scared that there might be something I didn't see.
Right.
And when there's a little bit of confusion, even with mirage, you know.
Were you waiting for your condition to come back, or were you assigning a new wind call to a different condition?
Yeah, what I'm doing when I more or less stop and then have to jump back in after a period of time, and because I'm a coach, I don't do just one condition. A lot of guys have successful shooters, and but in this particular match, when they shorten the time limit down to 22 minutes, you don't have a lot of luxury to be able to wait for a condition, you know. So, and that there again, that worked for me because I'm a coach and I shoot more than one condition. Matter of fact, I'm a curious as the proverbial cat. Oh, that's coming from the other side. Oh, I want to see. I just want to shoot this. I want to see what it's worth. But I'm knowledgeable enough to subtract what I got on my scope, and that's neutral at that hold, and then go the other way, a knowledgeable amount, I guess. And sometimes I'm right.
What goes through your head when you're about to shoot basically a new condition? Do you say, well, that's 3 lines, or that's 2 MOA, or what goes through your head? What's the thought process?
Okay, the thought process is MOA. At the start of the mathematics is MOA, because that's what you got on your scope. And the lines, as coaching, I've always used those lines as aim point, and I know the exact MOA for each line.
Right.
So, you know, left 3 or right 3 is 1 minute. See, it's just, with me, it's just automatic.
Right.
And I'll look at a flag and I'll debate and I'll go, that's going to be worth, you know, that came around and there's 2 minutes left and I have a minute right on. Well, what I'll do is I'll return that scope to 0 and then probably put a minute left on, and then I'll hold left 3. Okay. There's my second minute of left.
Okay, well, how do you trust your wind zero? When do you get that? Because that, obviously, if that's off, everything else is off.
Exactly.
Do you come in a calm day and establish that?
Oh, life would be wonderful if you could have a calm day at 1,000 yards. You just keep pecking away at it. If you get an almost calm day, you can dial, say the wind's a little bit of mirage from the left. Well, you want to dial until, and you think it's quarter minute left. You want to dial when you shoot dead 0, that you clip that X line on the right. There's your quarter minute. and that's probably the best condition you're going to. And then you're armed with that. Take a note. Sometime maybe the rest of the day if it stays light, and you know when sometime it'll go to zero.
Right.
It'll just die.
Right.
And you, if you're lucky enough to be shooting, let it think of it that, hey, this is zero.
Right.
I'm going to hold dead zero. Shoot it, and then there's the result. Okay, I had this much on the scope, and figure it out mathematically. Take your time figuring it out, because if you make, you'll arrive at your zero. And you got to do that because, like I say, you never get a dead calm day.
Right. Some guys, all they have available is 100 yards.
Yep, you can do that.
What would be, how would you advise somebody to do it at 100 yards? What would be the procedure?
What I would do, now with 100, and it's close to where they live, you more than likely you will find a very calm condition, perhaps calm. All right, so you get out there, you set a target up with an aiming point on it at the bottom, and then you hang a plumb line down so it bisects the center of that aim point. Now you don't have to hang it. If you have a outstanding 4-foot level, you can get plumb, and you draw that line. Okay, now, and then you're gonna dial your scope down, say 100 yards, and then you're gonna shoot. All right, and it's dead calm. All right, let's say, so now it's 100 yards. So if you take the shot, and if you're 1 inch either side of that plumb line, the center of the bullet hole to the plumb line, that's 1 minute of angle.
Right.
All right, your scope needs to be moved 1 minute of angle. And then you confirm, take a couple of shots, split the line, fine. You have a zero for 100 yards. Okay, now, the next thing you do is did I put this rifle together right? Is it mechanically plumb? So you run your, let's say that's your 100 yard, you want to come up, you should come up 25 minutes. And if your scope is plumb, so you better be holding level on your reticle, you're doing all this, when you're doing this procedure, you'll bisect that line so many inches up.
Right.
That's your 1,000 yard. Now, that is not zero for 1,000 yards.
Right, because of spin drift.
Because of spin drift. And spin drift, you can use a rule of thumb for every 100 yards going back. When you're going back, you go left 1/8 of a minute.
Okay.
If you had the calm day at the 1,000 and you firmly established a 1,000 yard zero, and then as you go forward, you go right 1/8 of a minute. Normally I use about a minute.
Yeah, because we're already at 100.
I think you lose, I think maybe somewhere's in there you lose 1/8.
Yeah. Well, the rule of thumb, they always say between 3/4 and one MOA. Yeah.
It's close enough that you'll be able to work with it. Listen, if you're 1/8 off, that can be considered zero if you're shooting during a 3-minute day.
Yeah. Is there a minimum amount that you increment a previous wind call as to? Do you ever move like a quarter line or half a ring?
Yes, I do. Normally, in shorter range, I move a quarter. 1,000 yards, I don't move a quarter, but I'll half,
Split the ring.
Split the ring.
Is that only when you're trying to center up, or is that, for example, you see a wind change, a pickup or anything?
I might be shooting the same shot over again.
Yeah.
But I suspect there's a little bit of buildup. I'll go that half.
Yeah.
Now, part of what tells me is people need to utilize their sighters. If they have unlimited, they need to shoot more than just what their barrel needs. It's unlimited and you have a half an hour. Why not take a look at a few conditions?
And bookend it.
And then remember it.
Yeah.
Try and remember it.
Yeah.
And if it's 2-sighters, well, and normally it's 30 minutes. So why not wait for a bookend two conditions. Shoot one sighter here, one sighter in that other one. All right, and say both with your 0.
Right.
And then plug that in. Then you may know what to put on the scope so that you kind of stay in a sweet spot. But when you put an amount on the scope, you have to be able to mathematically, you have to think, wind let up, so I need to go on the negative side of the center of the target. For people starting out with this, it may be easier just to leave the scope on 0 and favor out. And it's good practice anyway. You should be able to favor all the way out to the line and the white,
beyond.
or to the edge of the, yes,
And
because
beyond.
that's only 3 minutes.
Right.
It's
You
just-
always dial wind on your scope?
I try to.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because I don't want to go out to the edge of the
Yeah.
target.
Well, my early days I'd get confused. And so now my rule of thumb is
It's the math.
unless I don't touch the scope unless I'm need to put about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But in Canada, I was holding about 1.5 foot off the frame at some point.
Mm.
You
You
always
got to be
can-
able to slide your eye along that horizontal
Yeah,
reticle
yeah.
and make sure it's
Yeah, it's
running through. Well, in Canada, you didn't even have the horizontal numbers, did you?
Right. No.
Yeah, I figured you'd notice that.
They were vertically. Shooting a 7 RSOM.
Yes, for long range, I've used the RSOM since 2011.
Why the RSOM?
To me, it's a light magnum. It's capable of high speed, and yet it's the less powders than your regular magnums. It's enough recoil for me. It's a finicky cartridge. You gotta do a fair amount of load development, but I did a serious development all of 2012 leading into 2013, and actually going at 13 too, right up to about a month before the Worlds. And then I still felt like, I haven't found it. But what I had developed was a good load, and I still use that load. It will vary, I know, from barrel to barrel, but I've never worked with it enough. The next thing coming is tuning barrels with a mechanical tuner. I never have, and consequently, I've had good barrels and then some not so good barrels. If I would have had mechanical tuner, I could have taken the not so goods and made them better than the goods.
Well, that's why I use tuners.
Yeah.
Now, you have coached a lot of 284s. 284s. Do you think you have an advantage with RSOM, or do you think basically a guy that can read the wind can do well with either?
The guy that can read the wind will do well with either. And I personally, I think the straight 284 is the tightest grouping cartridge for the 7mm bullet. I have seen some fantastic groups with a straight 284.
I know a guy that shot a 216 this morning.
Yeah, you did, didn't
Yeah,
you?
with a Shaheen, but
Well,
so
that's
close.
that's a
It's
little
close
faster
enough.
straight
Yeah,
284.
but I don't run it. I run mine at 2860. That's where he likes to shoot, so that's where I shoot it.
Yeah.
Okay, Bob. Well, congratulations again on your championship.
Well, thank you very much,
As
Erik.
you know, I really appreciate you, and you were the first guy that ever coached me on a team.
And where was that?
That was in Houston. That was
Okay.
around 2010 or so, or 11.
And it
when
was just
the
was it
tryouts.
a pick?
It was the tryouts
Oh,
for
it
the
was
U.S.
a
rifle team.
tryout.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you were my first person ever to coach me, and I always remember that, and I always will. So
Yeah.
I'm extremely happy that to see you win. You deserve it.
Well, I'm extremely happy to see, since 2010, to see how you progressed, because you're a national shooter now
Well,
too.
thank you, Bob.
And when I coach you when
Well, in
you're a
Ireland.
newbie.
Yeah.
Yeah, you went to
We
Ireland.
went to Ireland. We had a good time, but time flies, and
Yeah.
all we can do is keep on shooting.
Yep, there it is.
Again, Bob, thank you,
There it
and
is.
good job.
Well, thank you very much, Erik.